hear me? Hello?
Thank you,
Can you hear me, Masami?
Yes, Manila, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you also Betsad and Sol for the very informative presentations. It's nice to see how far Iran and Mexico have come in implementing the provisions of the protocol and also the requirements by Codex. We heard from Masami and both Betsad and Sol on a few examples of both formal and informal mechanisms that are in place at the national level to ensure coordination between the various sectors. In addition to the formal mechanisms, and for that Sol has presented this very nice diagram, I'm always mesmerized by how many people are involved, formally involved, and how many agencies are involved in the approval or decision making regarding LMOs in Mexico, but it all seems to work quite fine. But we also heard about some informal mechanisms, such as Canada, that they have monthly phone calls among the different assessors to coordinate the progress regarding an LMO application. So those are quite interesting examples. We had also Japan proposing a way forward that the three databases could exchange contact details of their focal points. That's something we can try to follow up. And I would now like to invite everyone to discuss the mechanisms and actions to improve or facilitate intersectorial communication, particularly focusing on the points that are on the screen, strategies to overcome identified challenges, suggestions for practical actions and next steps at the national level, but also at the international level so that we can try to address those. There were a number of questions already posted. First, I would like to start with the questions that were posted that were addressed to Betsad and Sol, because those are related to their presentations. Betsad, there were 4 questions to you, or 4 questions with sub-questions. If I may read them all, and then if you could address them, if you miss something, I, of course, can repeat it. But there were questions from Masami, and they were related to what type of labeling is required in Iran. Is it positive labeling, this is GMO, or is it a negative one, this is not a GMO? And whether Iran has a threshold for labeling. Masami also would like to know how the informal mechanism for communication in Iran was established and who started it. Then we had a question from Efa, which is asking whether Iran makes a difference between GMO and LMO, and so genetically modified organism or living modified organism, if Iran makes such a distinction. And Dorrington asked a question, what does it mean to say GM research is exempt? Does that mean that the confined field trials can be carried out without any approval from the biosafety authority? So again, Betsad, these questions are to you. Please, if you missed something, let me know and I will repeat it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manuela. First of all, the type of labeling in Iran is required is just mentioning that this may contain living modified organism. So it should be either placed on the container or can be included in the accompanying documents. The threshold, yes, we have the threshold. It is 2%. If something has 2% or more, this is obligatory to label it. The question of the informal mechanism, I thought can you kindly give me back the slides, only one slide? I can show it. This one, okay, this one. This one, you see, this is consultative committee, no, not this one. Hello? Okay, this one, please hold this one. This is a consultative committee. This is informal cross-sectoral mechanism. So we really can't make decision only based on this informal meeting, but believe me, all the decisions made in here is realized and is materialized by the Biosafety Committee, National Biosafety Committee, because in this informal committee, all the representatives from Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Science and Technology, Environmental Protection Organization, representatives from scientific societies, 2 parliament members, experts from faculty members nominated by the Ministry of Health, and representatives from other ministries who are not sitting in National Biosafety Committee are also included. We informally discuss, but whatever decisions we made by forced consensus means that if we have, let's say, agreed upon 90% of the people sitting in the around the table, we really force the last person to accept, and they usually accept. But we never so far experienced the voting. So whatever is decided in here is really respected by other formal mechanisms that we have. This was initiated by National Focal Point himself, because as I mentioned, National Focal Point is only one person, and one person cannot make all the decision according to the understanding of everybody. And then the question of the distinction between GMO and LMO, yes, we do make distinction, but again, different organizations and different laws are addressing different entities. So for biosafety law that we have, just like the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety, we are addressing only living modified organisms. But the Ministry of Health himself, themselves, do have some regulations that even address the GMO, which is the products thereof, and the processed foods. I hope I covered all the questions.
If I may, there was a question from Dorrington, Betsad, which asks, what does it mean to say GM research is exempted? Does it mean that confined field trials, etc., can be carried out without any approval from the biosafety authority?
Yes, you are right. The confined research is exempted. So confined doesn't really mean that you can do anything you want. If there is any, it is monitored by the National Biosafety Committee. If there is any possibility that it is not confined, then it falls under the term release. So any type of release is required the proper risk assessment, approval, monitoring, and even post-approval monitoring. But as long as there is no chance of release and it is a confined research, the term confined is very strict in here, then it doesn't require approval from National Biosafety Committee, but it may require approval, institutional approval. For example, ministerial approval is there, but it doesn't require the final approval for commercialization and for environmental deliberate release.
Thank you, Betsad. If you could please mute your microphone. I think you have. Okay, thank you. We are running out of time. I would like to perhaps ask one question to Sol, which is, so if you could very briefly answer the question of Dorrington. There are a couple of other questions from Masami and Ward, but those questions will be answered in the report, as well as some questions posed by Betsad himself about the challenge faced by having only one focal point or having multiple people being contacted. So the question, very briefly, so please, if you could answer the question from Dorrington, where it's asked if you could explain how the public is involved in the decision-making during the commercialization of LMOs. So please.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. During the commercialization for food, feed, and processing, we have an authorization, and for giving that authorization is according to is based on a risk safety assessment according to the Codex Alimentarius, and there is no a requirement for a public consultation for the authorization that allows commercialization for food, feed, and processing. But I have to mention that for the environmental release, which can be a commercial stage, pre-commercial, and experimental release, we do have a public consultation process, and it is advertised in the National Information System and the Register of GMOs, and it is also in the web page of Senacica or Semarnat, in case when they have GMOs for them, but this far is just in the webpage of Senacica. And we also have these formal ways to announce them, but we have also list of interested stakeholders that could provide opinion during the public consultation process. That's the fastest I could.
Thank you very much. So perhaps I hope we have time for one more question to Sol. So if you could be brief, please. It's a question from Masami, and she asks, in Mexico, what's the normal time frame for one event's approval? How long does it take at each step? For example, the field trials, environmental risk assessment, food, feed, and safety assessment. So if you could give a little bit of a quick answer on the normal time frame in Mexico for the approval. Thank you.
The time frame for authorizations is 6 months after they have completed all the information. Whenever you receive an application and there's lack of information, the time frame stops. For the environmental release, it varies according to the type of release. The time frame for experimental release is 6 months. For pre-commercial release is 3 months, and for commercial release is 4 months. And in the 3 cases is the same as with the authorizations. This time frame starts counting once the information is complete. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sol. I recognize a few other questions, but we are running out of time. I would like to thank all participants who posed questions and the presenters and also the organizers for this very useful webinar. We had many good practices and challenges shared, concrete proposals for actions, and from our side we will be glad to follow up on those. The reports, including answers to questions that could not be answered during the webinar, as well as the recordings, will be published in due course. I believe Ward will communicate with all of you to disseminate that information. Before we close, perhaps we could give the microphone to the organizers and for a quick goodbye.
Much, Manuela. Well, I mean, if I may, I just want to very quickly just pick up some comments about this coordination mechanism and suggestions. That I think that there are some participants suggesting certain areas that we can actually work at the international level to help the national authorities to actually improve their coordination mechanism. So I'm not going to go into much details, but then I would like to say that all of us, 3 organizations, will look at all the comments, and then we will pick the suggestions, and then we will write in the report, and then we will try to make it possible as a real follow-up action to the webinar. So this is something that I really want to confirm with all the participants, that your inputs really, really are important, and then we will address them. So with that, thank you very much, Manuela, for me to say something. Perhaps I will hand over the microphone to other organizers. Manuela?
Taka, maybe you would like to say a few words?
Yes, I just would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you. And I have to admit that I find myself still learning a lot from this conversation. So I consider the importance of keeping this momentum going ahead. Thank you so much.
Manuela, sorry, can I say something in terms
Of
of
course.
the Taka's comment? I just want to remind all of you that actually that the UI checker that Taka just presented earlier in the session was actually the concrete follow-up from the first webinar, because during the first webinar the participants suggested that there should be some sort of mechanism to check the correctness of the unique identifier, and then Taka was very nice, and Taka and Bertrand maybe, and then also Peter, they followed up very immediately, and then they came up with this checker. So these are the examples that this webinar is actually really working even for us as an international organization. So
Thank you, Masami. Yes, I would like to echo your words and also Taka's. I also learned a lot. It was my first webinar and very useful. Thank you to all. Maybe Bertrand and then Peter would like to say a couple of words.
Yes, thank you very much, Manuela. Bertrand speaking from OECD. I was also very interested by our session, and it I think all the interest expressed in the 3 databases by participants is very encouraging for us to continue our work of trying to make them as complete as possible and as harmonized as possible with and facilitating the flow of information between our systems. And we have already picked up some ideas in the discussion, and we'll have to follow up. That will be very interesting. I also noted the interest for the unique identifier for its possible future extension to animals and microorganisms, and that was also part of a clear request from CBD to OECD, which is the organizations having created this system, to study this extension, and we have decided to work on that on a case-by-case basis, and so we hope that in the near future we'll be able to show some examples of unique identifiers tied
Thank you,
to
Bertrand.
organisms.
Peter, would you like to say a couple of words?
Well, just to echo the comments of you all, yeah, it's been a great opportunity. We've learned a lot, and I look forward to continuing this type of exercise in the future.
Me too. I look forward to another chance to meet online. Very useful to me as well, again. And with that, if there are no more comments from the organizers or from anyone, I would like to say thank you again to all, in particular to the participants and to the presenters at the country level. That was very useful, and thank you for the dynamic discussion. I would like to now close the webinar in case Masami has no other comments. And again, thank you very much. Just another point, just so that I emphasize this, all the questions will be saved, and the organizers from the 3 organizations and also the presenters, there were a couple of questions left for Sol. We will answer the questions, try to answer the questions, and that will be posted together with the report. Thank you very much, and goodbye.